I'm going to log in using a Gmail account. You can click on new project on the right hand side, say new RStudio project. Once we are on this screen, I just want to create some more room. I'm going to cross this out at the corner, go to tools, global options, under appearance, editor font size, maybe 24. It allows you to have different kind of themes. So one thing good about RStudio Cloud is you don't have to worry about installing new R versions as and when they come up. If you go on the right side, it says R 4.2.2. If somebody has to go back to the previous version, you can move from 4.2.2 to any other version. Click on file and then new file, and the first option it says is R script. As you click on that, you see that the first window appears where we type our code. So for example, if my first code is 1 plus 1, I can click on this run button that you see here, the first window at the top where my cursor is. If I click run, it does two things. My cursor was here. When I click run, it ran the line and the cursor went to the next line, line 2, automatically. And while doing that, in the second window under console, it shows you what it ran, and then it also shows you what the output is. Similarly, if I do 5 times 3 and run, so same process, the code runs and you get the output in the second window. Now, for running any line of code, your cursor can be anywhere in that line. It doesn't have to be at the end. It could be at the beginning or in the middle, or you may select the entire thing and then run. It will do the same job. If you are one who prefers a keyboard, you press Control and hit Enter. That also will run the code. If you are using a Mac, then it will be Command plus Return. So if you have like 6 to the power of 9, for example, command return, it will return the number. So I'm going to just delete everything in the first window. You can click this button. It looks like a broom. So it will clean everything. It is always a good idea to write some comments or notes, and we can write comments or notes using hash symbol. So if I run this line, obviously R will know that this is not really a code. It is just a comment and it will not give any output. Let's say 20:30. So if you run this line starting with 20 and then going up to 30. So 20, 21, 22, and so on. You can say 30:20. It will generate that in the reverse. You can even go for a specific sequence using a function called seq for sequence. As you start typing any function, it will give you options of all the functions that start like that. First one, for example, is sequence generation, and it gives you a brief idea about what exactly that function does. So I'm going to select first one. I want a sequence from 10 to about 30, but I want to increase every time by 4. It will give you that output. Sometimes you may require repeating some number or some sequences. So we can use this replicate command or function. If we are using multiple numbers to repeat, usually we start with C and then parenthesis. And let's say I want 12, 15, and 17 for some reason. I want to repeat this, let's say 5 times. So 12, 15, 17, 12, 15, 17. So that sequence gets repeated 5 times. We can also use text T within parenthesis. Let's say we want to repeat or replicate. So whenever we use text, we have to use within quotations. Suppose I say this data is with female, numeric data is 3, another repetition or replication with M for male. So as you can see, F is repeated 3 times, M is repeated 2 times. So whatever we generate, this kind of pattern data, it can be stored in some objects that we can name. Let's say I want to store within X some pattern numbers, maybe 1 to 10. The way we do this in R is we point an arrow towards X using less than and dash. So when I run this, X will contain numbers from 1 to 10. So when I ran this, you can see it runs the line. In the third window, now it sees that there's an object called X. It sees this object as an integer between 1 to 10 with values 1, 2, 3 up to 10. So that information now is available in the third window. Similarly, if I want to save object Y 21 up to 30, and these numbers will be stored there. I ran line number 10 by clicking command plus return. But if I only select Y and then run, it also can give you the output. Whatever is contained in y can be seen just by running y. Same thing with x. Let's say x plus y. So what it is doing is 1 plus 21. So that's 22. 2 plus 22, 24. So it takes the first number from both x and y, adds them, takes the second number, adds them, and so on. If you have a different length, for example, let's say if it is 11, at the time of doing x plus y, it still gives you output. This is entire list of x, and this is entire list of y. So once 10 plus 30 is exhausted with this 40, then for the 11th one, it goes to the first number here and adds that. I'll stick to 10. If instead of this lowercase y, if I did uppercase y, it says object y not found. Because R is case sensitive, it doesn't recognize if you use a different case. If your data was stored in lowercase y, then you have to use lowercase. Okay, let's create object points and put a number, actually a series of numbers. How many points a basketball player scored in a match? So let's say one player scored 35. I'm just making up some numbers. It may not be real, something like this. Another one is player, Tatum, Brown, Williams, Harford, White. So we'll use this to create what is called a data frame. If I run points, I only get information about these 5 data points. If I run player, I get data point only about name of the players. But using this, we can create a data frame, which is like Excel or CSV file with rows and columns. So I'm going to call this my data. I want it to have format called data.frame. First, I want to put player in it, and the next I'm going to put points. So when I run this, you can see under data now I have my data, 5 observations, which are usually the rows, 2 variables, which is your columns. So if you click on this, you see this data frame, small data set with player and points. So I'm going to cross this out. Crossing this out doesn't mean that I have deleted data. It is still there. If you do str, which stands for structure of the data, and say my data, it will tell you whether it is a data frame, how many observations and how many variables it has, and also what are the variables and what kind of variable we have. So player, for example, is a character, points is a numeric kind of variable. Str is a function, structure is a function. Similarly, there are many other functions like if I say names, my data, I run that and it will list all the variable names. Similarly, if you want to look at dimension of your data set and say dim, my data, 5 rows and 2 columns. You can also say summary, this function here. And if we run summary my data, for the data set which has like text format or character format, we don't really get any summary. But if your data or the variable is numeric, like points is in this case, it gives you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 number summary. In that column, what is the minimum? First quartile is 15. Median is, in a way, it's the second quartile also. Mean is the average. You add all the numbers and divide by 5, you should get 21.6. Third quartile, and the maximum is 35. To save any file, if you go to File and click Save As, I'm going to call this week 1 plus and click Save. Now in the 4th window, there is a file called week 1 plus, and that file has extension of .r. And the default place where it gets saved is under Files. In R, there's a lot of inbuilt data. If you want to get a list of whatever data is available, you simply type data and open and close parentheses without anything. So it gives you data sets in package, data sets. There's a package called dataset, which is available. Air passengers data, BJ sales data. So if you close this window and return back to what we had, and suppose out of whatever data we saw, you are really interested in looking at data within quotes iris. It says now iris and promise. If you want to look at the structure of the data, so it's a data frame, just like your Excel format, rows and columns. So 150 observations is the number of rows, and 5 variables is number of columns in that data. And what are these 5 variables or 5 columns? sepal.length. It's a numeric variable, and first few values look like this. Similarly, sepal.width is also a numeric variable. Whittle.length is numeric. Whittle.width is numeric. But the last one called species, that's a factor variable which has three levels. So basically 3 different types of iris flowers. Not every data set that we work with is already inbuilt into R. So sometimes we want to use our own data. You see this page. It has a lot of data, and this format is called CSV format, comma separated variable. So each value which is in the data file is separated by a comma. You simply copy this link. At the end, you'll see 2022 BOS for Boston.csv. So we'll copy this. So let's store this data in BOS. For reading a CSV file, we use a function called read.csv. Read, you'll see first option is read.csv. So I'm going to select that. And because that link is it is in text format, we'll put that link within quotation marks and simply paste that link and run this line. So now this data I'm bringing into RStudio from external source, but as soon as I read this in object BOS, you can see BOS 884 observations. So that many rows, 59 variables, so that many columns. If you click on that, it presents to you the entire data set that is available. Year or season, it is 2022, basically 21-22 season. SLUG team, under that it says Boston, because when I pull the data, I only pulled for Boston to keep it smaller, but we can cross this out.